Welcome to today's video. It is Halloween, and I am finally sharing my ghost stories with you. I hope you enjoy my little setup I've tried to create. I just want you to know that it's very difficult to figure out lighting and camera settings when you don't really know what you're doing and you want to have like a dark, spooky vibe. A little bit difficult. So you might see some like weird movements, but that's okay. That's just my camera and me not really knowing how to set it up properly. Let's carry on. Now, I don't know if ghosts are real. I don't know if they're not real. What I do know is that I've had some experiences in my life that sort of just kind of make me question our reality in general. You know what I mean? You know what I mean. And I've been called out by Deb at Debbie Draws Funny because I keep briefly mentioning house ghosts and stuff, and now I'll finally share the story about my house ghosts. But that comes a little bit later on in the stories, because I'm going to start right from the beginning, from where it all started. It started when I was very young, sort of at that age where you don't really understand what death is, basically. And I remember my Opa had passed away, and I have this vivid memory of my brother crying in his bedroom, being like, why, pounding the bed, and me just being like, what's going on, what's happening? And not really getting what was going on. And that night, I was sleeping, and I woke up, there was a man standing beside my bed. Now, I thought this was just my dad, because usually he would come in and just like tuck us in real tight in our blankets at night and then give us a kiss on the forehead. But he didn't do anything. He was just standing there and he smelled different. And so I like kind of peeked and like tried to see who it was. But I was like, I know you, but like I don't really know you, because I didn't get to spend that much time with my Opa as when I was young. I just like, yeah, like I recognized the face, but I couldn't like figure out who it was. So I just was like, okay, went back to sleep thinking it was just like an adult checking up on me. A couple of years later, I'm just flipping through photo albums at home. My mom's a big photo album keeper, so we have so many photos of us as kids and like, you know, life and stuff. And I remember seeing a picture of my Oma and Opa, and I was like, that face right there. I guess I just kind of was like, all right, maybe that was just Opa coming to say goodbye. And I was like, okay, cool, that's it, that's that. That's where it all began. The next story that I have involves that same house. In our house, we had a big basement, and in the back of it, there was like an unfinished room, but there was a door to that room. And most of the time, we just kept that door closed because, you know, when you're a kid, leaving a door open to like a dark room is spooky and scary, and nobody wants to do that. So we would generally keep that door closed. And I was down there playing with somebody at some point. I don't know, we were probably making like some sort of sprawling Barbie metropolis in the basement floor, as we usually did. And I remember just like kind of feeling weird. And then I looked up and the door opened a little bit, maybe like this much, and then closed. And whoever I was with at the time, don't remember, we were like, oh my fucking God! And we ran upstairs, and that was that. I remember later on trying to like recreate how that could have happened, because I was very into like ghost hunting shows and stuff. Even though it scared me so much, I would still stay up at night and like try to watch it secretly when the parents were like not noticing. So I was always just like, what's the real explanation? We have to figure this out. And trying to recreate like opening doors, like, oh, it's probably just air pressure, opening and closing doors, and we could never get it to happen. And I'm sure, of course, there's so many variables that were just out of our control, but in my mind, ghost. That was a ghost. So that's what we're gonna go with. That's what we're gonna say happened. Next up is a classic Ouija board story. We had a Ouija board, you know, I think a lot of people do, a lot of people did, and you kind of just mess around with it, not really knowing what you're doing, but we knew we didn't want to summon the demons. So we were trying to do everything right. I was in my bedroom. I don't remember if it was my sister having a party or me having like a sleepover or something, but it was me and like a bunch of other young girls. And we were hanging out on the Ouija board, doing little Ouija board things. And I remember thinking in my head, this can't be real. This has to be fake. Like, it can't be real. But also just saying that because I didn't want to be scared, you know? Like you try to convince yourself that, oh, it's not a thing, like, it's just somebody else is doing it, because then you feel less scared when you think you have an explanation for what's happening. And I remember we asked, obviously the classic, give us a sign if you're here. And one of the candles, like, flickered a little bit, like, you know, like that. Like that. Oh, Arlo hated that. But we just, yeah, I was like, somebody probably moved, you know, created a little gust of wind and made the candles do a thing. We were like, no, that's not enough. That's not enough. Give us another sign if you're here. And then the blinds on the window, like, as if a gust of wind had come in and like pushed the blinds out and they hit the windowsill again, but the window was closed and we all just got up and like screamed and ran out. Scary. So that's just my classic Ouija board story. I don't really think I have any other stories involving the Ouija board because honestly, I was scared of it after that and didn't really want to play with them. So a few years after that, my aunt ended up passing away from cancer. I think I was maybe in like grade 6 at this point. It was the very first funeral that I remember going to. I don't know if I went to my Opa's funeral. I was just like that young that I don't remember. But a little while after that, almost everybody in my family, I think, sort of experienced that like phantom smell of a lavender perfume. And my Auntie Pam was somebody who was known to wear this like specific, I don't know, lavender perfume or something. And I just remember like smelling it sometimes. Parents would just be like, oh, that's just Auntie Pam visiting. So I think even them just saying things like that has always just led me to kind of be like open to things and not just immediately dismiss it and be like, oh, I'm just crazy. Oh, I'm just smelling the flowers from out in the garden or something. It's just like, sometimes it even is just comforting to think that like, oh, that's just Auntie Pam visiting when you randomly are smelling a very specific perfume and nobody in your family wears perfume. Apparently phantom smells are like a really common thing in the paranormal world, so I don't know, I smell things all the freaking time and I normally just don't really think about it. Maybe I'm smelling ghost smells. Maybe I'm not, who knows? I remember always asking my mom if she had ghost stories because she was a nurse and she worked at a hospital, like an old hospital. You know, people die at hospitals and it's a classic place to experience ghostly happenings. So we would always be like, Mom, tell us your ghost stories. And she would tell us how, you know, weird things would happen. They believed that there was a woman ghost and a little boy ghost hanging around their floor. I think the little boy was just like a patient who had passed away and the woman was a nurse who had taken her own life at some point. My mom told us that like weird things would just happen, you know, like the classic, you put something down, you know you put it down and then it's not there anymore. Things like toilets flushing when there's no one else around, and this was like before automatic flushing toilets were a thing. Ventilator hoses would be coiled up under like patients' pillows when there was no one else around. I don't think that ever led to anything dangerous happening, so hopefully. And just other things like that, like call buttons going off in patients' rooms at night, but you go there and they're just fast asleep. Things like that, classic ghostly shenanigans that you're just kind of like, well, that was weird. And that's pretty much, you know, that's all I remember her telling us. You know, when you have a parent who's just like kind of open to things as well, I guess it leads you to be more open to things in general as well. Without being like crazy. She wasn't like, oh, it's the ghosts. So I'm not like immediately like, no, it's just science. It's fine, whatever. So now we're finally getting to the point in time where it's like recent, kind of recent. So in 2014, my dad passed away and obviously sad and shitty, not a fun experience. We would kind of just joke around and be like, Dad's definitely gonna haunt us, as a way of bringing humor into the situation to like cope with the sadness and whatnot, stuff like that, and he 100% did. The thing that freaked me out the most was there was one night when I was home alone. My mom had just left for, I think, a night shift probably, so it was just me and the dog and the cat home alone. We were sitting in the living room just hanging out, and I was just home alone with the cat and the dog. We were hanging out in the living room, watching a movie, dicking around on my laptop, and I just like all of a sudden felt watched. Like, you know that feeling where you're just like, oh, and you feel kind of just uncomfortable? I had that feeling very much. So I got up and I closed the blinds just in case it was a feeling like somebody was outside or something. That didn't really help. The feeling didn't go away. And I started hearing like somebody walking down the hallway. So I heard like footsteps walking down the hall and I was like, oh, what the frick? Because the cat and the dog were both beside me and those were the only animals that we had in the house at the time. And it was just weird. And I was like, oh, I don't like that at all. And my dog, Foster, got up, walked to the hall and just like did that creepy dog thing that they do where they just stand and they just stare like kind of up in the hall. And I was like, are you effing kidding me right now? So scared, trying to like pretend that I'm fine. I was like, Foster, come back here. And like called him back over to me to like comfort me because I was scared and trying to pretend that like I wasn't scared. I was like, it's nothing, there's nothing there. It's probably just like a bug or something flying around. And so I have both of the animals back with me. I'm trying to pretend I'm fine, dicking around on my laptop, watching a movie or something. And I hear this noise, this very specific noise to my dad. When we were kids, if we were having a sleepover or if we were at like a cottage or something, he would go around to like a window on the outside at night and make what we would call werewolf noise. And it was just like this weird, silly growl kind of noise. And it would obviously like scare us when we were little and then make us laugh as we got older. But I heard very specifically that noise from behind the couch. Like we had an L-shaped couch. I'll put in a little picture of what the room looked like at the point where I was sitting, etc. And I heard the noise from behind the couch. The cat immediately got up and was hissing. Foster was just like perked ears up and looking around, and I was like, are you effing kidding me? And at this point, I was like, my sister was coming home from about an hour away from school to come and just visit for the weekend. And I like texted her or called her or something. I was like, Sam, you need to hurry up. You need to get home faster because I just heard a ghost noise and I'm so scared and I have to go pee real bad. The bathroom was down that scary hallway where I heard like walking sounds. So I was like, oh my God, just sitting there like, did I just hear that? Trying to make sense of it, you know? You're like, did I just hear that noise? Like, did I make that up? Was that on the TV? But I was watching like a Christmas movie or something, I think. So why would that, I don't know. I was just going through so many thoughts in my head. I was like, what can make that make sense? What would have made that noise? Did the cat secretly have like a hairball? He was dead asleep. He went from sleeping to hissing. And I was like, oh my God, this is so spooky. And it never happened again. I've never heard it after that. So I don't know. It was very bizarre, freaky. I hated it. I don't know if I've ever told anybody this story, just because it's one of those things where you just kind of like nobody's gonna believe you unless they've also experienced weird things that they can't really explain, right? So I don't know. I don't just go around telling people about my ghost experiences. Okay, now if you're still with me, in 2021, Grant and I bought this house. We somehow got lucky and snuck into the housing market when we had those nice low interest rates and found this old 166-year-old house. We managed to get in. We bought her. She's great. We love her. But from the moment we moved in, I had that like I'm being watched feeling. I kind of just chalked it up to the whole like going from a small 1-bedroom apartment to like an actual house with floors and like multiple rooms and stuff. And I just kind of told myself that that's what the change was. That's what I was feeling. Of course, going from a 1-bedroom apartment to a house, we didn't have that much furniture. So it's not like there was like a lot of clutter to hide things that maybe the previous owners would have left behind. We started to find dimes and pennies, specifically along the north side of the house. So like the bedroom window and the front living room window, there would be pennies or like a dime in like the windowsill or on the floor, like against the baseboard on the carpet, like doot doot right there. They weren't there, but then all of a sudden they were there. We don't really use cash in our house that much, so I don't know where they would have come from or whatever. But I remember when my dad first passed away, my mom would find dimes just randomly, like all around the house. And same thing, like, you know, don't really use cash for things anymore these days. Where are these dimes coming from? But my dad very much used cash, like a lot, and always had like, he had this little spot on this like shelf thing when he would come home and just put his like wallet, keys, you know, whatnot, change in like this thing. And so I don't know, we think maybe that's just dad saying hi. So maybe he just wanted to come and check out his youngest kid's first house. I don't know. And then other than that, there were a few little like trinkets left behind by the previous owners in this house. Like there was a little frog figurine and like these little painted rocks. Mostly they were in the kitchen and like the windowsill in the kitchen and our little hallway by the bathroom. They would just kind of like move. They would move spots, and we kind of, I think Grant and I probably just thought that each other was doing it, but it turns out neither of us were actually moving them. They were just moving somehow. Like going from place to place, like on one side of the window, being in the middle, being behind the curtain. It was just very strange because neither of us touched them ever, and they just kind of moved around and did whatever they wanted. Other things that we've experienced were the dryer door just like opening. When the cycle is done, the door will just like be open. This only happened like 2 or 3 times. We just thought that maybe we had like a bad dryer. We're like, oh frick, now we have to get a new dryer. Like the door just opens. Like that's not cool. Like what if it just opens mid-cycle? Like what a pain in the butt. Like maybe we can fix this. And I guess there is like some ways where some sort of sensor can like be faulty in a dryer so the door will open, but ours isn't like that. It's very old. Not very old, but it's a pretty old, it's not like a new fancy dryer or anything. And the door is really, really stiff. Like you have to push it really hard to close it and pull it really hard to open it. So I'm not really sure how it would just pop open randomly 2 or 3 times after the cycle's complete. Where it's kind of like, we just kind of said, oh, the ghosts are just making sure we're getting down to the laundry so it doesn't get wrinkly. So we can fold it and put it away on time. And that's how we kind of explained that away. Other biggest thing that happened, only happened to me. Grant never really experienced this, I don't think, but I would be upstairs, going to bed, lights off and going to sleep. It's still like pretty much light out when I go to bed. Keep that in mind. So it's not like dark or anything. I'm not like not seeing something, but I'm going to sleep, you know, head down on the pillow, eyes closed, like, think empty thoughts so I can go to sleep. And then I feel this like unmistakable feeling of, if you ever had a cat You know this feeling. When the cat jumps up on the bed with you and like walks up beside you to curl up and go to sleep, you feel like the blanket's kind of tightening a little bit just on the one side, and like you can kind of feel the little paws in the mattress. It was unmistakably that feeling, and that happened about 3 or 4 times. It would freak me out, and at first I thought maybe it was like Arlo, but then I would open my eyes because it's still light out so I can see. There's nothing there. There's no like dog. The dogs are downstairs with Grant still at this point because they don't usually come up to bed until later. So I was just like, great, I guess we have a ghost cat too. Like, that's fun. Kind of like having a ghost cat. That's pretty neat. But after a little while of like all these little things happening, I was like, oh, okay. I am spooked when I get up in the morning to go down the stairs in the dark to get ready for work. So I stood at the top of the stairs one day and I was like, hey, ghosts, listen up. We know you're here. It's cool that you're here, but we pay the mortgage now and I do not want to be spooked anymore. We appreciate that you're here and that you maybe lived in this house at some point or whatever, like, you know, that kind of thing, yada yada. We pay the mortgage now. We'll do our best to keep the house nice and tidy and cool and happy. And then after that, I haven't really experienced anything for like a while. And I feel just like so calm and like at peace here. Like, this is just like such a cozy, homey place for me to be in. I love it so much. Like, even in my house growing up as a kid, I never felt like this comfortable and relaxed. It always felt a little bit weird. Like, if I was alone, I didn't feel alone. But when I'm here, I did feel that at first, but now I don't. I'm just like so comfortable and happy now. I don't have any like problems, really, I guess I could say. The only things that I really get now are, we have really creaky floors in our house, obviously. She's 166 years old. She's not even, she is creaky, but she's done settling, so we don't get like settling house noises. But sometimes if I'm alone and I'm with the dogs just down here in the living room, upstairs is our bedroom, and sometimes I'll hear like the floor creaking. Usually that's what I hear if Grant is walking around up there or if a dog is walking around up there, but it's always just me. Like right now, the boys are down here with me and I'll hear like that every once in a while and I'm just like, really? It's daytime. I know I told you you can do daytime shenanigans, but like, get out of my bedroom. Oh wait, I do have one thing that happened very recently. Literally this weekend it happened. So I don't feel like spooked anymore, but I guess little things do happen now and then. Because on Saturday after work, I did like a nice deep clean of the house, you know, vacuumed, dusted, cleaned the floors, picked everything up, all the dog toys away and whatnot. And there was one toy that the dogs do not have constant access to, and that is tennis balls, because Briggs will just like chew it to death and then swallow the pieces, and Arlo just gets obsessive and can get a little like guardy over them and might like snap at Briggs if he goes near it. So we never leave just like tennis balls around. And I had gotten back from a walk with the dogs on Sunday morning the next day. You know, we did our usual thing, whatever, it's like 6 a.m. I go upstairs, they come with me. I'm working on like computer stuff and I hear like some thumping down here in the living room. And I was just like, what the heck was that? I thought maybe like, I guess I just assumed like, I don't know. I was just like, I don't really care. I didn't think about it too much. But then a little later on, I came down here and there was a tennis ball just sitting in the middle of the floor here in the living room. Both of the dogs had been upstairs with me the whole time. That was not there when we went upstairs. So I don't know where the heck that came from, but somebody found us a lost tennis ball, I guess, because I have not seen this tennis ball in a while. We've been using orange tennis balls recently, and this one was a green one, and we haven't had green ones in a while, so don't know where that came from, but somebody found it for us, so thanks, ghost. That's about it. I know it's nothing too exciting, nothing too crazy or spooky, nothing really concrete about like, oh man, this proves ghosts are real. But if you've made it this far, thank you so much for just listening to my silly ghost experiences. If you've had any sort of things happen to you that are just weird or like kind of unexplainable, please share them in the comments. I love reading this kind of stuff. I think it's so much fun. I think it's so interesting. I really want to believe that there's like other energies present in our world, you know what I mean? I think that's cool. Like, how boring if it's just us, you know? There's gotta be other stuff. There has to be. I'm sure there's like plausible explanations for so many things, but it really is just like more fun and easier to be like, it was the ghosts. It was the ghosts. Thank you so much for watching my long-winded rant about ghosts and my silly little experiences that I've had. I figured this would be a fun little thing to share on Halloween, and happy Halloween. Happy ghost experiences. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.